Greetings, Earthlings. I made some lovely scrumbles based on a spiral motif and then squiggly bits with the occasional sewn in spiral. That bit's been sewn together just for ease of joining, however that bit is still loose. So I will probably add these to a I don't know, a scarf, a poncho, something like that, maybe a blanket. I just discovered how to do them and sort of invented them, and I'm sure I haven't invented them, I just discovered them, and from the spiral and then doing a tail on the spiral, as you can see here, improvised. So this is a beginner's channel, so I will teach you how to do a spiral. And what you do first is both strands of colour that you're going to use, do a slip knot, pull that tight, then choose one strand, doesn't matter which at all because we're going to be doing the same thing with both of them. So one slip stitch here, like that, and then 4 single crochets into the same original stitch with both the colours. So 1, 3, and 4, and then nice big loop there, so if you accidentally tug the thread a little bit, it doesn't undo all your stitches. And then turn the work and pick up the other thread, and if you like you can crochet over these 2 end bits of your slip knot. And so we put the hook in the center stitch again, which may be a bit occluded, but mostly obvious where it is because it's the middle one, so all the stitches are going into it. And we do a single, no we don't, we do a slip stitch to get us out of that thing, and then we do 4 singles into the same stitch. It's a bit tight. I'm using a 5.5 crochet hook, but you can use any size really, and I just find that 5.5 works up quite quickly, so that's good. It's probably the biggest one I would use for a freeform project. Okay, so we've done 4 stitches on each side. Now we skip the initial slip stitch, which is the very last strand there, and we go into this first stitch, which looks like the second stitch, but it's actually the first one. And I like to work back loops because it shows quite a nice, I don't know if you can see that there, but it's quite a nice defined line around, so that's why I use back loops, because the front loops make a pretty. And I'm doing 1 into the first one and then another into that same stitch, so that's an increase into the first stitch, and it increase into the second stitch, so that's 1 single crochet and another one into that same stitch. And now, because we're kind of running out of stitches to do that into, and I don't want to do it into the end one because it can mess up that stitch basically underneath. So I'm going to leave a couple of stitches there free, put a long loop on that one, a bit extra wool actually so it doesn't pull, and turn my work, pop my needle all the time, put my hook into the next one and do exactly the same thing. So we're skipping that slip stitch there, which is the very closest to the light blue, and we're going straight into the single crochet there with an increase, so that's 2 in the same stitch, and we're increasing in all 4 of these. So just going around, oops, and that's the 4th one. So you see the spiral starting to take shape. I'm gonna leave that one there. So basically the theory of making a spiral is 8 stitches to make a circle basically, so 4 each colour, and then to increase we do, so we're following the orange one here, that's 4 stitches, that half a circle. This half a circle is 8 stitches because 4 times 2 is 8, right? And we're increasing in every stitch. From there, we will be increasing in every other stitch until we get round to here. And because we're increasing in every other stitch until we get round to here as well, in the orange, so we're kind of completing the circle. So that's one circle, that's another circle, and well, I guess that is another circle. So we actually do fewer on the increase. I'll show you. So, okay. And the reason we do it precisely like this is to get it to lie flat, because otherwise it can either become bowl shaped or become way too frilly and floppy, and then it's not helpful for anyone. So, okay. Where can you see that? You can still see that. Okay, great. So yes, so we're doing the remaining 2 stitches. Those are both going to be increases. So 2 stitches, 2 single crochet stitches in each of those to finish that round of the spiral. Okay. Now you see we've done 2 rounds. One round, well, one little tiny circle and then a bigger circle. You get me. And then we're going to go 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 2 into the stitch after that. So 1, 2, same stitch, increase. And then 1 into that one, 2 into that one, 1 into that one, 2 into that one, until we get to, basically I use this line to eye up vaguely where my circles sort of increase to. So we've just done that single crochet, 2 more, another single in that one, the next one is an increase, get a bit more wool here, and so was the single, did the increase, single, increase, and as we haven't quite got to the end of that round because the light one, light blue, again I don't want to mess up that stitch underneath there with doing it here, so I will carry this around, and again because we've got, okay, so we've got one, then we've got like all increases there, so I often count outwards from the center to find out how many stitches I should be doing in a segment. So that's obviously 1, that's 2 in each stitch, so this is 1 and then 2, so there. Single, increase, single. Okay, so now we're using that middle line to basically establish where the end of that row is, and I'm just going to go over the edge of that row and do the next thing, so that with the next colour with the darker blue I can then carry on a bit further than you see. You see, right, okay, so this one is, let's do another increase in that last one, and let's say that's the last stitch of that row, and then we do 2 single crochets in the next 2 stitches. So no, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch after that, then an increase in the 3rd stitch basically. So for every 3 stitches we're doing 4. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. And this is a bit close, but I will just white knuckle this thrill ride. So you see what I'm doing. I'm just going around, and around. Okay, so what was I doing in the last one? And I can see if I pull it slightly, I was doing 1, 2, increase. So I will carry on with that because it's not reached the line yet. 1, 2, increase. Okay, and for this last increase, I've decided that this is the last stitch I'm going to do with this particular technique, so I'm just going to put it in both back loops, and that just makes it a bit more secure, so that when I do the next thing that I want to do, which I'll show you in a sec, it's just a bit more held on there than if it was just held on with only 1 stitch. So a technique I'm going to show you now is, and I do not remember the name of this technique. I will try and figure out a way to to put this in the video, but I don't know how to do that yet because I'm very new at this. So please bear with me, but I'm going to show you a technique to basically I'll show you on here. To basically do, instead of just doing single crochets, I'm going to do a bit of a thicker cord than that, and you can see that's the thicker one, and then I've decreased and done a thinner single crochet. So I'm going to teach you this one. So put your crochet hook in, not the next stitch here, you don't want to put it in the light green, but in the blue, in the, it's not green, it's light blue, sorry, in the darker blue. Should have just picked different colours, shouldn't I? In the darker one, you put the hook through that side stitch like that, and then yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two. Then again, the next one down, which is this one here. So you've just been in that one and you want to put it in this one here. So in through that, yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two. So it's basically a single crochet, but working into its own side rather than into the next stitch around. So do that a bit more, and you just do this however long you really fancy it, because it does not matter. I'm not counting, I don't really know. I'll just stop when it feels right and see what happens then. But I would like a little bit, because it sometimes can help me if I do this one and then I do the simpler one like I did on that purple one I showed you. It can help me remember where I am for how I'm going to show you how to do these curves. So, and you can do this as long or as short as you like. I'm just going to do that, that'll do, something like that. And then what I'm going to do is just slip stitches from there, just a little length, just to finish it off. So I've got plenty to work with. Okay, that'll do. And of course it can, I just snipped that darker one, alright. It can increase as well, so you see, what have I done here? Alright, so I've done on this curve here, I've done yellow up until there, but I've done more orange and more dark orange still. Oh, sorry. So I'll just repeat that, sorry. So you can see on the yellow I've only gone so far, and then the line above it I've gone even further because I've got that technique, and the line above that I've gone even further, and that means that when I get to the black outline, not that you have to do an outline, it just looks pleasing to the eye, I think. So we have this little tail here, and I could have done what I did here, which is do a tail on either side, and you see again I've used that line and I've gone, okay, that's about halfway, that's about halfway, just all by eye. It's not really precise. If I think it needs one more stitch or one fewer, then I just do do what I what I feel. And yeah, got both tails on this one, but for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to do one tail. So light blue now. And what I'm going to try and do here is now, do I want to? Yes, I think I want to make it curve that way and then that way. Like a little backwards S. And so what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use the invisible decrease, which I'll show you. You can just skip a stitch, but I think the invisible one, I don't know, I just find it more pleasing. So I'm going to decrease every, I'm not sure, maybe every third stitch. So do a single, a single, a decrease, a single, a single, a decrease. And that should make this go, because I'm on this side of it and it's getting smaller, it should just make it curve around like that. And then do straight for a little while, but really not that long. And I'll decrease probably until the end of the thicker section, and then do straighter, and then I'll do an increase on this. So it's probably going to end up more like that. So what was I doing on here? 2 and then an increase. So I'll carry on with this. In fact, actually, I think I'll just carry on doing singles until I get to here. And I've still got one stitch on the, technically on the spiral bit before I start this cord. But what I'm going to do is an invisible decrease, which is where you would put it through normally on the back loop. Yarn over, pull through, and then don't do the rest of the stitch, just keep those 2 loops on your hook, and then the next stitch, start the next stitch. So in the yarn over, pull through, so you've got 3 stitches on your hook. And then either, if you really want small stitches, you can use that first one and pull them both through, pull it through both of those ones, or you can yarn over again and pull it through all 3 as though it was a half double. It's really up to you what you do there. I don't know what I do most like, it kind of depends. It's not a precise art, it's about feeling your way through. So as I said, I'm going to do 2 singles and then an invisible increase, 2 singles, invisible increase. Not increase, decrease. Sorry about that. Blah, blah, blah. Silly brain. Right, okay, so 2 singles. Do as I do, not as I say. Sorry. Right, okay, so again, invisible decrease. Through the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, leave those 2 on the hook, into next stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Then 2 singles, 1, and the next stitch, 1, then decrease, then 2 singles, and decrease. Okay, so now I'm at the end of my little thicker section, So I'm just going to do a few, I'm not sure how long I'll do before I start to increase. So I just do singles until it feels right. Probably not that many singles, maybe 4. Yeah, 4 singles. And then, oh yes, I'm running out of space actually, so yeah, I'll do an increase, an actual increase in the next one. Getting all in my grill, mister. Alright, cool. And one single in the next stitch, and 2 in the third stitch. Oh great, we can. So one single, increase. Great, and there's a stitch left, so we'll just do a single into that one. And then I think we'll do a bit more of that thicker cord, but with this one. So let's go into the side of that and do the sort of sideways single stitch for a few stitches, maybe 2, as it works up quite quickly. And then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 slip stitches, and then 1 to finish off that doesn't really count as a stitch. Oops. Then snip. So you can see it's already starting to take form, just like on its own. Don't know if you can see that, but it wants to be that shape already. The more you do of this, the more you will discover what works, what doesn't work, in terms of number of increases and decreases. I think I'm going to use a bit of white now. If you can see that, I think you can see the stitches all right with this lighting, hopefully. Do let me know if there's any technical issues. I am going to try and work on them. So okay, so with the white, I think I would like to start, why not start here? I'm going to do a slip stitch in there. Let's start with a slip stitch in the next one, and quite often if I do 2 slip stitches in a row, because this back loop kind of gets it stays out of it if I just do it with it the same side. Quite often I'll just put the back loop around the front, do the stitch as normal, so slip stitch, and then I put it around the back again, and it just makes the loop, it makes this disappear. It's a way of weaving in the end without it looking particularly bad or getting in the way. Okay, so single and just crochet around that, and that looks like it needs to increase there actually, so I'll just back loop increase it, and singles, I don't know, that was 3 singles after the thing, but depending on where you start your thing, that's just your preference. And you, again, my rule here is, so that was the 4, that's the 8, then the 1, then 2, and then that's 2, then 2. It's confusing. Right, 1 then increase, 2 then increase, and so the next row, which is this, would be 3 then increase. So I've done my 3. If I'd started further back on this circle, I'd have done an increase, but as I'm just about to decrease anyway, I'll just do singles. So I hope that's clear. So I'm going to do a decrease here, as we're again not quite off the circle, but it's better to decrease quicker, I find, and increase slower. But that could just be to do with my tension that I hold my wool and hook with. So you will find your own sweet spot with that. So again, I'm just doing 2 singles, then a decrease, and yeah, sometimes I pull it through like that. Kind of looks all right. So now, with that first row of light blue, I did continue decreasing, but I think now, what does it want? What shape does it want to be? I think it wants singles until about that stitch. I don't know how I know that, but I do. And I think it's just a question of getting comfortable with the material, getting comfortable with screwing it up and taking a few stitches out here and there, because you can, it's really easy with crochet, you know. All you need to do is take your hook out and just pull that, and that'll take the stitches out, you know. Easy. So I'll just redo that. That was a single and a decrease, and a single, and yeah, let's do up until that stitch. So 1 single, 2 singles, 3 singles, 4, and then we start, oh no, that's on the increase before, so maybe I'll just do an extra single here and do a single, an increase. It is technically still on the increase from the one before, but it's like the one after it. So I'm always lazy with my increases and premature with my decreases, if that makes sense. So 2 singles, increase, 2 singles, increase, 2 singles, increase, and then I think I'm going to do a single here and just do slip stitches until the end, or nearly the end. I'm not sure, we'll see how it feels. Because that just narrows the colour nicely, I think, yeah. And then leave 1 slip stitch in the light blue at the end, but we can finish off this slip stitch non-attached, pull that tight, blah, and snipperoo. So you get this kind of thing, and it just wants to hold that shape now. And this is a wonderfully versatile design, because like here you can sew in little singlets, you can work with any colour combinations you like, and excuse me, someone's trying to ring me. Apologies. So now, just to make it look nice, I think I'm going to go around it with, what do you think, sparkly blue or green? Why not green? We've already had too much blue. I've already complicated everything enough by doing everything blue today, so right, okay. And all I'm going to do here is work around the whole thing with probably the same guesswork, the same pattern here. This green is actually a little tiny bit thicker than the yarn I've been using already, but that's fine because you can use your own intelligence and just work with what the materials say to you. And this is a matter of experience, and you'll get it wrong sometimes, and that's fine. Embrace the wrongness, because I'm going to do a video at some point about all of my scrambles that have failed and turned evil and how to rescue them. So I'm going to try that. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to start near the end and show you what I do for the end here to go around to make this little point, because it's cute. So I'm going to start near the end, and then I will show you the finished scrumble after that. So because I've just decided to go around the whole thing, I'm not going to start easing with single crochets like I did with the white. That's just going to be a smooth line rather than an abrupt sort of doof. Now we're in a different row, but this can be abrupt because I'm just going to go show you the point and then crochet around, show you the end result. So crocheting over the ends, because then we don't have to sew them in. Nice increase there on the third stitch, third single stitch. Single, single. Yes, shall we do an increase? No, let's leave it. Let's leave it a bit straighter, because otherwise it can just increase a whole lot and kind of curve in on itself. So, which is nice, but also not what I want to do here. So that's fine. And then, okay, so we've finished the white, but we've still got a blue, light blue. So we're going to do a single in there as well. And that's great. And then basically, because that's quite a stubby end, I'm going to do an increase, but I'm going to add that little bit of the last stitch there, just to strengthen it a little bit. Just add it a bit security. Then, once we've got 2 stitches on the end, we do 2 slip stitches. In fact, let's do 3, and then we put, it's called a picot. So if you know how to do this, you can do it at either 2 or 3 slip stitch picot. And after those 3, I'm going to put, so that's the last single crochet stitch that we did. I put my hook through that one and the side of it, and then crochet line over through all of those, so, and then pull it tight-ish, not too tight, but yeah, and that little bobble there is what forms the end of that, and that's called a picot. So we're now on the decrease because we're on the other side of it, and this is kind of thick wool. So what I'm going to do here, excuse me if you can hear my cat eating biscuits. What I'm going to do here is, and I'm also crocheting over all the ends. So invisible decrease, and if it's easier, if it's hard to find the end with this, you can just use the actual hook like this. Find it easier sometimes. Invisible decrease, boopity boo. Yep, good. Okay, I think with this I'm going to play it by ear as to how much I decrease, because I'm deciding right now whether to do a decrease now, which is obviously going to make this bend sharper, or if I do a single and then a decrease. I think I'm going to do a single then a decrease. She's got a crunchy little mouth. So yeah, and then single, decrease, I think. Yeah, it's got to be a decrease, because otherwise it will just turn into a really weird shape, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that in their lives. I mean, maybe they do. To each his own, I say. Freedom. And so what's this doing? Let's have another look. If in doubt, if it's going a bit weird and curly like this one is, and it frequently goes weird and curly with me, I'm just a weird curly girl. Got curly hair, curly mind, curly. Anyway, just lay it flat. See where the stitch wants to be. It wants to be a decrease there. I can tell that because it's more than a right angle, and it just needs to carry on. Because it's an acute angle and we're decreasing, so that is time. And then let's do a few singles there, should be the straight liney bit. Maybe another single because it's thick wool and I'm still going over the ends. Okay, so now we've actually reached, that's quite neat actually, we've just reached the bigger cord thing. So let's do an increase there. Marvellous. And then, yeah, let's see how this takes us. Single, single, lay it down, see if it wants to increase. It does. Single, single. Again, just got to play it by ear. Oh, those colours, loving those colours. Okay, we're going to do another 2 singles just after the last 2 singles, so it's kind of straight over that bit, doesn't need too much adaptation. I'm going to do an increase here, so that's the increase, then 3 singles. Then because I've got a angle here, I'm actually gonna decrease, which might blow your mind. Really isn't mind blowing, but don't know why I said that. So that was a decrease. I'm going to do another decrease on these light blue stitches here, and then hopefully that should just do a nice curve around. So when I do singles, do 2 singles, actually I'll do 3, and then you can see that's what it's doing. And then I'll do an increase, and where am I? Okay, so that's 2, that's 1, that's okay. In my head that's 2 in 1 stitch, then it's 1 gap, then 2 in 1 stitch. So this is 2 gap, then 2 single crochets, then an increase. But actually, because this wool is thicker, I'm going to do 3 and then an increase, so otherwise it won't lie flat. Sorry if some of what I just said then was confusing gibberish. That was my brain. I blame it. That's what it's like to be me. Sorry. Sorry, world. I apologise. I am a shambles. So that's 3 singles, and that one, we'll start on the white. I'm just going to do a cheeky little single in that first slip stitch and a increase in the second, and carry on around here. Yes, increase is necessary in the next stitch. And that position is probably the last position that I'd be comfortable putting an increase, because of otherwise the curve is too close. If I was to increase there in the next stitch, I wouldn't be happy with that. But this one, ultimate increase stitch. And then we can do singles and start reducing. So I'm doing 2 singles and then a invisible decrease. Might have to do more invisible decreases. Yeah, I do. So I just did 1 single and then a decrease, just because of the thickness of this wool and the fact that that curve gets steeper the further in you are. And you can see it's trying to curve up at the sides, because this is thicker wool, but tough toots, that's what I say. Okay, and we doing the straight bit yet? Not yet. Okay. Decrease. Single. Yes, now we're doing the single. That's just 2 singles, and then I'm going to do another one because I was on top of the increase from the last row, and then now I'm going to increase. Now I'm not over the top of that one, so that it's not going to have any weird cornery looking lumps. And just carry on using your best judgment until you get to the end. And that last stitch. So now that's just a slip stitch, so I'll just do a stitch in that stitch because the slip stitch isn't really real, it's not a real stitch, and then pop a slip stitch in the back loop of the first true single, pull that tight, snip that off, pretend that end doesn't exist, and ta-da! Odd little tadpole guy. And you can obviously attach bits and bobs, so you can sew this if you want. You could also, oh, that's a good fit. Nice. So if I was sewing that, because it doesn't quite meet, you could either just smush it, which would be fine, or I would maybe do bigger sewing stitches and just don't pull it tight, leave it, because that looks quite cool. You can do all sorts really with this kind of thing, so we'll see how it shows up in a project, but that is how to do those lovely curves. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you had, please like, subscribe, all the lovely things. Much love, and thanks for listening. Cheerio.